Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is March the 24th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. I know I'm kind of coming a little later than usual. Had myself a little Sunday fun day. It was very nice. Actually, we'll go ahead and start the food corner a little bit in reverse order. Talk about my day today. I started off with pancakes from First Watch. They're very yummy. Big old pancakes, size of your face. You love to see it. Then took some time to go to IKEA, walk around, taking the sights, see all the furniture I'm not going to buy because I can't afford it and really feel like I don't need it. But, it was nice to kind of idea craft, look at this bed, look at these, look at these things, look at these chairs. Are they comfortable? So that was nice. That was fun, going through the IKEA labyrinth. But let's see. Let's run it back. Food corner yesterday. What did we eat? I had Cane's. I went out. I got some fast food. But I feel like it's been a little bit. I've been like pizza pilled, and that's really about it. So it's nice just to get some chicken tendies. Have the chicken tenders, the caniac combo, extra piece of toast with a large lemonade. That's like pretty much my signature order when I go there. Always love it. Let's see. And then I was feeling even more hungry because I finally didn't go out. I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, you know what? Let's just stay in. But let's see. I went out to Dairy Queen and I got a large blizzard, and I got an order of the pretzel sticks with the zesty queso. And I guess I'll do a little quick food review. I will say, look, Dairy Queen's food is something to be desired if it's not a dessert item. I feel like most people already know that. The average American knows. But hey, I'm a sucker for pretzels. I've had their pretzels before and knew they're kind of medium. Knew they were a little mid. But you know me. I was just feeling it. I was in the mood. I've been big hungry. My diet is not happy with me most likely. But hey, it is what it is. Overall, I've had a really good weekend. It's been really nice. It's been good. So it's been nice. I can't stress that enough. I can't say that enough. I don't know. Anyway, let's see here. Enough of me rambling and raving about myself. I got some news I wanted to talk about, get into. So let me go ahead and cue that up. Let me go ahead and get my startup going. You know what that means. And we'll get into some news. Run through it real quick. Ooh. Okay. Our first story comes from Press TV, but I know you can find this story is like on Al Jazeera. I think several others. I will say, unfortunately, I kind of was surprised that this didn't get more coverage, considering, um, there's literally a massacre of 115 people in Gaza. Very similarly, but this is a smaller number, but still the same kind of shit. But anyway, I mean that happens. It is what it is. I try not to say, they're spinning it, brother. They're doing this and that. I try not to, belabor that too much. Anyway, sorry. At least 19 Palestinians killed as Israeli troops open fire on Gaza aid seekers. The Israeli military has attacked desperate Palestinians lining up for humanitarian aid in Gaza City, killing at least 19 people and injuring 23 others, and a new massacre against aid seekers. The government media office in Gaza said in a statement that the carnage took place on Saturday near the Al Kuwait, I'm not sure, roundabout southeast of Gaza City. The occupation army and tanks opened fire with machine guns at the hungry people who were waiting for bags of flour and aid in a remote place that did not pose a threat to the occupation. Also, I find it crazy, since there was a whole Oscar situation, y'all know I didn't really talk about the Oscars. My bad. It kind of was boring. I didn't really give a fuck about talking about Oppenheimer. But there was a person who made, the person who directed, I think, was it Zone of Interest or whatever. It was this really moving story about the Holocaust, and it's, shot in this, pretty interesting perspective, but it's very, dark. It's very hard to watch, but very moving movie. It tells a really, I feel like, good story about what happened in the Holocaust from just almost a jarring perspective, but it isn't jarring how it's displayed, and it's very interesting, very good. I would suggest it, but the creator of this, one of the creators of this movie, he stood up and said, "Hey, like, I'm a Jewish person, and I feel like this is wrong. Naturally, terrorism is wrong, but also the loss of Palestinian life is something. This is an atrocity. Like, obviously, I'm highly paraphrasing, but this more or less medium take of just saying like, hey, we gotta fucking stop this shit. This is wrong. We can't just be okay with this. Has been met with like backlash from people. Like, how dare you call this an occupation? Like, they scrambled like these 400 and so random motherfuckers that they found and said, hey, we are Jewish and against this Jewish person who's saying this. Like, no, you got to be pro Zionism. Like, what the fuck? And they were so mad of how he worded it, and I was just like, literally, this guy just said the most normal thing that I feel like the average person who looks at this conflict, feels. It's like, what is going on here? Like, over 30,000 people have died, and more are dying. We are making a man-made famine in this area. For what reason? Like, for what? What is gained? And then meanwhile, just getting back to the story, people are clamoring for fucking food, getting to like what minimal scant aid they can get to, and they're being gunned down. To which Israel, of course, is saying, no, that's not how that went down. It didn't go down that way, okay? You just got to take our word for it. I'm sure, they were Hamas. They were somebody bad. They were threatening us. Like, you plug and play the answer here. But this shit has happened multiple times, not just in the one or two times I've covered it. You know what I mean? There's stories that slip through the cracks. And, I'm glad they mentioned in this article, obviously, just kind of blind referencing here a little bit, but it's unfortunate. It's very frustrating. I cannot stress that enough, that these are the kind of stories that are here today and almost gone tomorrow from people's consciousness. But these are people who are fighting for their lives every day, living and dying, and it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. So, there's that. I wanted to make sure I covered that. Let's go ahead and hit the next beat, though. From the Hill. The Hill. Russian missile briefly enters Polish airspace during massive missile attack on Ukraine. A Russian missile bound for Ukraine crossed through Polish airspace early Sunday, sending NATO F-16 fighter jets scrambling and sparking the Polish government to demand answers. Excuse me. The Armed Forces Occupational Command of Poland said a cruise missile crossed into its airspace at about 4:40 a.m. on Sunday, near the village of Ostrow on the Ukrainian border. The Polish military said it was over the country's airspace for about 39 seconds before entering Ukraine. More or less, to kind of make a longer story short, like, they said, hey, we could have interacted with this missile. We could have stopped it, but we chose not to because we didn't want to make a bad situation worse. We knew that this didn't have any intention of targeting anything in Polish airspace, so we just kind of let it rock, and the situation kind of corrected itself. But, long-time listeners know this isn't the first time we've kind of had a kerfuffle like this, and, they've been happening more than just when I've covered it. And I think those are the kind of situations that are maybe the most scary in terms of like a whole international thing, because Poland is a NATO nation, like, full the fuck out. Not that faux shit, that in-between shit that Ukraine is in, you know what I mean? They have that full fucking status, and there have been situations where people have actually died, you know what I mean? But because it's like, oh, it's a Russian oopsie-daisy, it's light enough to walk off the brink, because technically that's the kind of shit that could spark a full World War III situation, So that's very scary, right? Definitely the Western mind fears this, but I'm glad that this wasn't something that led to a higher escalation of tension. Cooler heads prevailed, so to speak. Obviously, it's unfortunate and bad that this war is going and ongoing. A bit of an update, though, because I know we covered the ISIS situation that took place in Moscow. I think the number has gone up from 40 to like 115 confirmed in terms of the dead. Obviously, that's sad. Definitely the weird situation that's taking place is you're seeing like Russia double down on this notion of like, hey, there's a strong chance that actually Ukraine aided this attack. They're somehow involved. And like it's definitely gotten to the point of people are saying like, yeah, like I could believe it. Like there are Russians who are act like, you know, like maybe, sure, possibly. I still kind of maintain that there's just not enough evidence to support that this is that kind of false flag situation. It definitely kind of feels like, hey, Russia's kind of almost maximizing a bad situation of saying, hey, we can kind of curtail this to say, well, maybe Ukraine facilitated it. Maybe these people were involved that were Ukrainian somehow. We don't know. Well, maybe Ukraine faked that message where, you know, ISIS said that this was them. So that was a bit of an update. I figured, hey, while we're on the subject of Russia doing things, that we would go ahead and mention that. But let's talk. Let's shift to some good news, some silver linings in the playbook, if you will. If my internet cooperates, being a little laggy, being a little slow. From the Associated Press, some of nearly 300 abducted school children in Nigeria's north, are freed after weeks in captivity. At least 137 of nearly 300 Nigerian children abducted more than 2 weeks ago from their school in the northwestern state of Kaduna were released on Sunday, the West African nation's military said. An early statement from the government suggested that all of the students were freed. So yeah, because I've kind of had conflicting reports. I've heard like all 300. I've heard that it's at least 137, so like half of that number. But granted, at least 1,400 students have been kidnapped from Nigerian schools since 2014. So, you know, that's a whole fucking issue. Either by Boko Haram or other, you know, terrorist militant groups in the area that are like competing, vying for, you know, power and just control and their own state of like economic stability. Like they're all looking for this in a situation where times are really fucking hard in Nigeria. Let's see here. Obviously, not excusing behavior of resorting to kidnapping, you know, women and fucking children. That's terrible. But it's weird that like that is the core reason for doing it. And I've also heard reasons of like, well, it's also, you know, Ramadan, and it's like, hey, we would like kind of like having people to do the menial tasks and things like that while we, you know, do this. Kind of works out for us. But let me go ahead and read a little bit further here. The 137 children were rescued in the Zamfara state, an enclave, notorious for kidnappings, more than 200 kilometers or 124 miles away from their school. Nigerian military spokesman Major General Edward Buba said in a statement. Pictures released by the Nigerian military showed the children looking worn out as they were covered in dust, still wearing their blue, white, and brown uniforms while being transported following their release. Karuga town leaders joined other government officials in waiting for their arrival at the Kaduna State Government House. At least 17 other school children in northern Sokoto State were also rescued 2 weeks after they were taken hostage, according to a statement issued Saturday by the Sokoto State government. So yeah, I mean, these kind of situations can get resolved all kinds of ways, either with families rallying together to kind of get the payment for the ransom. The government says that they don't negotiate with terrorists. You know, that was actually part of the stipulation here. Is he was like saying, "Hey, I'm gonna make sure that this happens, and we're not gonna pay a goddamn dime." But it's alleged that governments do pay out sometimes. So there's that. Let me see here. No group has claimed responsibility for the Kaduna kidnapping, which locals have blamed on bandit groups known for mass killings and kidnappings for ransom in the conflict-battered region. Most of them former herders in conflict with settled communities. At least 2 people with extensive knowledge of the security crisis in Nigeria's northwest told the Associated Press that the identity of the abductors is known, which that's something that's not surprising to me. You know, these people have the power, like you can trace it to them. It's just a matter of, can you stop them? Can you like correct the behavior? And the answer is no, the fuck we can't. And that's really the sad kind of thing at play here, is that like yet again it almost feels like this is like a systematic play out of like cause and effect, and the government in this nation state just kind of has to throw their fucking hands up, almost akin in the situation with Haiti with all the goddamn gangs, you know what I mean? Like they're saying, hey, we're gonna put our all cards on the table and unify and move in groups, and you're just gonna have to fucking deal with us. And essentially, in Haiti, that's just so destabilized, they cannot combat that issue right now, and it's a shame all around. You know what I mean? And then you just hear Western states almost talk about these nations like, oh, that failed state, that struggling mother. Like, it's like, man, no, everyone's fucking struggling here. And not to mention, Western forces are a real responsibility here, but yet they kind of got to wash their hands of it. Like, oh, I guess they're freed people now, whatever. But, I'm blending. I'm doing a lot of things from other podcasts and one thing. Let's just keep it on the mark, if you will. We'll call this covered. All right. We have one more thing that I wanted to cover for today, and then I'll let you go. But you know what that means. It's break time. So it's time for me to take my break. Feel free to take one with me, and then we'll go ahead and close this out. Ooh. Ooh. Oh boy, we're so back. Ooh. From the Independent. Riley Strain updates. Preliminary autopsy results revealed as family fakes Nashville for love and grace. So this is a story I really hadn't heard about till like this week. It kind of escaped me. But a preliminary autopsy has completed on missing student Riley Strain's body after he was recovered from Nashville, Tennessee's Cucumberland River this week. The initial autopsy shows no signs of foul play, police told WKRN. Authorities recovered his body Friday morning around 8 miles from the downtown area where he was last seen, Nashville police said. Now his family is thanking the nearby community for their support. I want to reiterate how thankful we are for everyone and how much we appreciate everyone's support, love, and prayers. Strange mother Michelle Whited said. We are quite thankful for everything you've done, the grace you've given us, Chris Whitefield, Strain's stepfather said. The 22-year-old University of Missouri student was partying with his fraternity in Nashville on March 8th when he was kicked out of a bar at around 10 p.m. Strain's bank card was found a week later near the river. So to kind of make a longer story short, they do wind up like having footage of him seen like jogging like near the river. I don't know like the reason why, but that was like I think the last footage that was kind of shown of him. I feel like though definitely in these times you never know what could happen, so I can definitely understand being like, hey, we're glad that we found the body. I mean, there's definitely a lot of stories that I wind up not covering here where it's like that's a whole ass fucking issue and a sad thing that you don't even find the remains of the person you're looking for. But then two, you don't then know what happened. Like, what was the cause? Like, where is the person? Like, what made this happen? So I think getting that kind of answer is always very comforting, even though it's sad. You know what I mean? I think it can bring that kind of closure, which then can kind of bring up all of the emotion and force you to kind of deal with it all, maybe. But it's good, and that's better than not knowing, I'm sure, for certain. That's a whole ass fucking thing. But I always feel bad because I know that these stories can kind of feel very specific, and I'm glad that I get to cover them. But then I also feel bad for any times where I wind up not. I know that there was a story of like a dismembered woman, and it was like a local Cincinnati story, and I wound up not covering that for this week. But it was something that kind of took place from like kind of things prior, and I kind of felt like that was out of range a little bit more to kind of do that detail, But there's so many kind of things that I hit, and there's so many things that I wind up missing, and there's that comes with the territory of doing news commentary and having a bit of a time constraint that I have to put myself on. Otherwise, I talk and talk and talk forever and ever and ever. And I know you guys really only tune in for about maybe 5-10 minutes tops, and I understand. I appreciate it. But yeah, Once again, I thank you so much for tuning in, doing it again with me, having a break, taking some time, listening to me yap and whine about some news and some happenings. I thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.